Good afternoon, and welcome to the 7th Annual Meeting of Landus. I'm Mary Ben-Dixon, and on behalf of the entire executive leadership team at Landus, thank you for joining us today to learn more about the financial health and strategic direction of your cooperative. My role here at Landus is focused on continually improving how we communicate with you, our farmer owners, and providing ongoing opportunities to connect you with members of our team and to the information most relevant to your operation. At Landus, we believe in the importance of giving farmer owners frequent and transparent access to the strategies behind our success, the vision for the future, and the experts that will help get us there. So thank you for taking advantage of opportunities like this meeting to engage with us and stay informed. Over the course of the next hour, you're going to hear from our board leaders, from our CFO, Mark Miner, and our president and CEO, Matt Karstens. And you're also going to have the opportunity to make your voice heard. At any time throughout this live webcast, you can submit a question to our team by clicking on the chat button at the bottom of your screen and typing your question into the sidebar that appears. A Landus team member will be collecting those questions as they come in, and we'll reserve time at the end of our broadcast for Q&A with the entire executive leadership team. So thank you again for your time and attention. And now I'd like to introduce Chairman of the Board, Nate Stewart, to share a few words.
Welcome to the 7th Annual Meeting of Landus. I'm Nate Stewart, Chairman of the Board. Throughout fiscal year 2022, Landus Board of Directors stayed focused on advancing this cooperative forward. We are proud of the results that President and CEO Matt Karstens has delivered. This business is trending in the right direction, and this year we will share with you our strongest financial performance to date. We are proud of the team Matt led and the milestones they achieved. And while some tough decisions were made this year, they were the decisions that needed to be made. This board continues to stand by the Landus leadership team, and we support their unwavering commitment to the future. The board has full faith in this team's ability to position our cooperative for a leading role in agriculture, and that vision is already beginning to be realized. On behalf of the entire board of directors, I want to say thank you to every Landus employee for the work you do for the Landus farmer owners, and thank you to our owners for your continued support of your cooperative.
Good afternoon. I'm Matt Chambers, Vice Chairman of the Landus Board, speaking to you live from the Landus Connector, where I'm joined by our Board of Directors and the Executive Leadership Team. I will now ask Matt Showalter, Secretary of the Landus Board, is there a quorum present?
Yes.
Thank you, Matt. I call the 7th Annual Meeting of Landus to order. A copy of the minutes from the 6th Annual Meeting are available to virtual attendees on our website at landus.ag. Having heard or received no additions or corrections to the minutes from the board, they shall stand approved as received. I will now introduce the current members of the Landus Board of Directors. Nate Stewart, Chairman from Cedar Falls. Myself, Matt Chambers, Vice Chairman from Audubon. Matt Showalter, Secretary Treasurer from Hampton. Caitlin Kochmiller from Madrid. Ron Boos from Lake City, Jim Carlson from Gowrie, Jeff Frank from Auburn, Dan Reynolds from Rockwell City, Bryce Capel from Maxwell, Lynn Berry from Manila, Tim Coulter, an associate from Ackley, and Logan Fendrich, an associate from Wells, Minnesota. Thank you to all our current board of directors for their dedication to our more than 7,000 farmer owners. I will now introduce the board candidates for each of the 3 open positions. Running for Director's Position 1 are Rick DeGroat from the Shell Rock area and Dan Orey from the Earlham area. Running for Director Position number 2 are Tim Coulter from Ackley and Logan Fendrich from Wells, Minnesota. Both of these candidates are currently serving as board associate members. Running for the Director Position 3 is Matt Showalter from Hampton, who is the current board secretary and treasurer. Matt is running unopposed. The Landus General Counsel, Steve Nielsen, and our ballot tellers counted the ballots on Friday, December 2nd. We will post the outcomes of the election on the Landus website, and I will continue to introduce them at this time. In the election for Board of Director Position 1, Dan Orey has been elected to serve a 3-year term. In election for Board of Directors Position 2, Tim Coulter has been elected to serve a 3-year term. In election for Board of Directors Position 3, Matt Showalter has been elected to serve a 3-year term. Congratulations to our newly elected directors. Your leadership will be key as we continue to advance Landus forward. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce President and CEO of Landus, Matt Karstens.
Thanks, Matt. I want to say my thanks to all of you for taking the time today to spend this afternoon with us. These annual meetings are important, and this 7th annual meeting of Landus is no different. We really had 3 drivers of success for 2022. The first of those being consistent top-line growth. The reason this one's important is because this signals your support of your cooperative, continuing to stand beside us and rewarding our employees and our co-op with your patronage. Second is strategic spend. Not just the spend that we are doing with Landus, but those of our partners and collaborators. Together, that strategic spend and making the direction correct for Landus and not always having to use your dollars. And last is the improved supply chain. You've heard me say it before. For us to be successful, we have to remove links in that supply chain. That showed itself as true as any time through the COVID situation. And here even today, with some of the geopolitical challenges and even here in the States challenges we still fight, that supply chain is critical. And we were successful at continuing in both grain and agronomy and also feed, removing some of those links to improve what you will hear from Mark Miner is record earnings of nearly $29 million net income for last year. I'm so proud of these results, and there's nobody better to talk about those results than Mark Miner, our CFO. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matt, and good afternoon. I worked in agriculture since 1976, and I've been with the cooperative system since 1986. For the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure to serve as your CFO. As of September 1st, I've changed roles at Landus to become Chief Investment Officer. I'll be helping guide the more than $150 million in new projects we'll be doing over the next few years. I'll be working to help place capital in the most strategic areas, as well as being a resource to locations to maximize our return on investment potential on those projects. I'll also be working with the Landus location teams to better understand their financials. Kathleen Lyons is the new CFO as of September 1st. I've worked with Kathleen since 2006 when she came into Landus from the Farmers Elevator Company, headquartered in Bondurant. She has been the corporate controller and has worked in every aspect of our financials. Kathleen and I have worked side by side together for 15 years, and the cooperative could not find a more dedicated and experienced person to help guide them through the future. But because we're reporting for financials ending August 31st, you get me one more time. So now let's look at highlights and dig into the numbers. Dollar sales at Landus was almost $2.4 billion, spurred by higher prices and huge market share gains. Total pre-tax profit for Landus was a record $28.9 million, as Matt alluded to. All business units at Landus, grain, agronomy, feed, and animal nutrition, exceeded their internal budgets. As part of insights and infrastructure that Matt Karstens will be talking about, we invested over $84 million on new fixed assets and rolling stock. But best of all, for you, the member, we are sharing $3.4 million in cash patronage on grain sales. This equates to 2 cents a bushel on all member grain sold to Landus. With the back dividend we paid in March, plus estates, this brings the annual cash return to our members of nearly $8 million for fiscal year 2022. Total sales at Landus were up almost $900 million over the previous year at August 31st, 2002 year-end close. Total sales were $2.35 billion. The breakdown of these sales by business unit are $1.6 billion in sales in our grain department, $258 million in agronomy, animal nutrition had $423 million in sales, and finally feed had $99.5 million in sales. Total gross revenues are margins plus service income, and Landus was up more than $47 million to $218 million of gross revenues. Gross margins were up over $37 million. Service income was up $10 million. On total operating expenses, they increased $35 million to $189 million. We break these expenses down to 3 areas: payroll, fixed, and variable expenses. Payroll expense was $64 million, up $8 million to last year. Fixed expenses were $37 million, up slightly to last year. Variable came in at $88 million, up $26 million to last year. Main expense increases were felt in the areas of interest costs as rates increased all year, and expenses related to a larger crop, mainly dryer fuel and freight costs. Total pre-tax profit for fiscal year 2022 at Landus was over $28.9 million, up $9 million to last year's $17.2 million, which, by the way, last year's number was nearly double to the previous year, as you see from the slide. Landus is on a very strong earnings trend over the last 3 years, up over 300%. Working capital is an important measure of financial health of your company. It is current assets minus current liabilities. Current assets are anything you can sell within a year. Current liabilities are anything you owe within a year. Working capital at Landus ended up at $126 million at the end of August. It was down $30 million to the previous year. As our net income increases, we feel very comfortable spending more and more cash on new facilities and refitting older locations. Our net plant, property, and equipment increased over $50 million last year as we built in Rake, Early, Yetter, and a new site in Mitchellville, Iowa, just to name a few. Our minimum working capital threshold is $90 million today, so we still have plenty of reserves. Long-term debt was at $63.5 million at August 31. With the low leverage levels of only 22%, Landus did not need to make all of its debt payments this year. This is a very low leverage level for a cooperative, and you'll probably see this increase in the years to come as our balance sheet becomes stronger with each year we post strong earnings. Now we can put more of this money back to work for you, the member. The difference between working capital and long-term debt is what we call net debt. Net debt was at a negative $62 million. This means if we paid off all of our long-term debt, we still have $62 million left over. These numbers reiterate the strong financial position of your cooperative for the future. Okay, now let's break down the business units a bit. The grain division had grain sales of over 209 million bushels. Last fiscal year was 151.8 million bushels. That's a 41% increase. In 2022 fiscal year, the grain division sold 143 million bushels of corn, up from last year's 99.6 million bushels. In soybeans, we sold 66 million bushels, up from last year's 49 million bushels, a huge increase year over year. The agronomy division had the largest increase year over year with a 70% increase in sales. Their total sales were $258 million. Last year was $151 million. While prices for inputs were dramatically higher this year, the agronomy division saw large increases in tonnage and market share. Custom application was also a large growth area for Landus agronomy. The feed division saw profits go up 15%, despite selling or closing 3 older mills. Landus saw strong profits from the Larrabee Mill, which is in an LLC called Feed Partners. We also are beginning a relationship with AMVC, who is building a mill on our Hamlin location in western Iowa. The animal nutrition division continues to set records. Last fiscal year, they crushed over 25.3 million bushels of soybeans, up from the previous year's record of 23.7 million bushels. Keep in mind, soy has the same assets as the year before. This team continues to become more and more efficient. Congratulations to all who work in this area. There couldn't be a better slide to wrap up this presentation of my time as CFO than this one. Over the last few years, we made a number of changes, and this shows the power and impact of those efforts. As a numbers guy, I'm fond of saying, above all else, economics will always win. And this slide certainly shows just that, and we are just getting started. When I started as CFO 20 years ago, our sales were $170 million a year. Now we do that in 1 month. Our total expenses for the whole company was $25 million. Now depreciation and interest alone at Landus is over $31 million. A lot has changed in those 2 decades, and the pace of change is speeding up. As you, the farmer, adapts to changes in technology, climate, and geopolitics, so too must the cooperative system. We used to have facilities every 6 miles to match your delivery capabilities. Today, almost everyone has semis that can travel greater distance and much faster. The speed at which farmers can work the ground, plant crops, and harvest grain is ever increasing. While for some these changes are exciting, for a lot of farmers they raise the scary question of what comes next. No one is saying, I think farming will get slower and simpler. With the world population reaching 8 billion just last month, we know the role of agriculture and of you, the farmer, is becoming important and more demanding and more challenging. That means the equipment and infrastructure you rely on will play an even more integral role in your operations in the future. Everything you produce enters the bodies, homes, and automobiles of people all over the world. These consumers want to know where their products came from and how they got there. And with the internet and the world's knowledge at their fingertips, those of us delivering crucial parts of the food, transportation, and data systems have no room for error. One mistake can quickly go global and viral. If your cooperative is just taking grain and taking orders, they are doing you a huge disservice. You, the growers, will not be able to navigate the future without the support of a cooperative system's infrastructure. A cooperative system is poised to be your voice, your data voice, and your advocate in the future. Our cooperative system can combine the voices of 7,000 members and make a difference. But how we create that effect must change. We can no longer go to market in the same way we have in decades past or even recent years. We cannot use the same tired assets found in cooperatives across the Midwest. We must evolve our infrastructure and equipment to better serve you, the farmers, who are supplying the world with essential food, fuel, and more. The farmer of today has outgrown the current cooperative asset model, and Landus recognized that. In my new role as Chief Investment Officer, I'll be working on the infrastructure side of insights and infrastructure. We'll be placing capital where it belongs. As CIO, I'll be doing for the cooperative what you've been doing for your farm, eliminating tired structures and building new ones. As the graph on the slide shows, we have already begun making changes, and they are already making a measurable impact. I am extremely proud, excited, and grateful to be with a company that is so driven and dedicated to do what's the best for our farmer owners we serve. I look forward to expanding the benefits we offer all of you with greater investments in the assets you need. Thank you for letting me be part of the vital work you do here in Iowa for people all around the world. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt Karstens.
Thank you, Mark, and what fantastic results those are. It is a true dedication of our employees, your loyalty, and the work of agriculture to make something like that possible. And the good news, I think, Mark, if I've got the story right, the checks went in the mail today. So patronage checks are on their way, and this is a great day to celebrate those wins. So as I think back to 2022 and do some recapping there, and also want to look forward into 2023 fiscal year that we're already a quarter into, I want to start with the Landus Way. I talked about this last year. I've talked about it a lot of times when in front of you all in between these annual meetings. And the Landus Way is a little bit of a roadmap that we simplify for all of you. The simplification of this really starts with agility and speed. These two things are not normal in a cooperative. A lot of times when I say those things in a cooperative setting, I get laughed at. But here at Landus, it's real. We must have the agility and speed to meet the needs of the marketplace today and well into the future. As Mark said, we're in homes, we're on the table, we're fueling, we're clothing. And that means agriculture must meet the speed and agility of those other industries. Said a little better by someone at a conference I attended a while back. Today will be the slowest day from here forward of our industry, of our economy. And we best understand those dynamics for the future that it holds. Teamwork is another area. I've really been pleased over the last few weeks to receive several text messages and phone calls, even some communication from some of you through our website, talking about the teamwork you're witnessing, from our delivery specialists to our operations teams to other personnel that you're witnessing in the local communities, at the locations, and beyond. Although I'm really happy with our success at Teamwork, I think the future is even brighter than what you're seeing today. It's a key element of any company, and it definitely exists here at Landus. And last but not least is courage. And I want to talk about courage on the next couple slides in the way of our employees and what you should expect, and also from you, our farmer owners. So let's start with our employees. People are the assets we protect the most. This is the reason for our turnaround. And it has nothing to do with me. It's about the people in the field. It's about the people supporting our field team, because a lot of them have listened to the empowerment and taken action to be empowered, to ensure you're taken care of every day. We can't make those decisions at my level or my direct reports. It has to be at the closest level to you. So I want to say this in front of our employees and our farmer owners. To our farmer owners, if someone says, my hands were tied, I don't have the ability to make that decision, I need to make a call, those aren't true statements anymore. They can make those decisions. They need to make those decisions because they know your business best. They know what it takes for you to be successful. And we as Landus trust them in making those decisions. It won't always be perfect. There will be stumbling blocks. I acknowledge that. But with retaining of that talent, continuing development of that talent, and the support of those people that give their time in the field, we can win. And we'll continue to deliver the results that you're seeing today and better. And while I'm on support, I want to make sure I'm clear about this because I hear it quite a bit from our farmer owners. I understand your position on all we need is people in the field, everyone else is overhead. But let me be clear, that's not true. In our field, they do not have the legal expertise, the finance or accounting skills, the communications or marketing abilities. Those are best handled at another level, provided to all of them. It's part of the reason why putting Landus together was so critical, to have that group of a few serving many. And although we continue to rationalize that balance, it's important to acknowledge everyone here at Landus contributes to this journey and must continue to have courage in doing what's right for our farmer owners. Now, moving to our farmer owners. Courage is something that has to go both ways. And I know as a farmer owner, it's easier to talk about your frustrations at a coffee shop, on the back of a ballot, behind a keyboard. On some level, that's what our society's become. And I respect that. But I'm asking you to have the courage to connect with us, with the local team. If your voice isn't be heard local, elevate it. I'm happy to take those calls. Our board is happy to take those calls. Because talking about it in a circle where no one can take action doesn't do any of us any good. We need your feedback. We want your feedback, and that local team stands ready to connect with you and have those discussions. At over 50 events we did this year at various locations across Iowa and outside of Iowa, we will continue to make ourselves available to you for these connections, for impactful dialogue, connections with experts in the business, ourselves or outside of our company, and most importantly, to ensure that feedback comes from you. This is a critical step in two-way dialogue or two-way engagement as we move forward. Now, a third area to talk about is partnerships. And I put this in here because it is really a true part of our success in 2022 and will be even bigger in 2023 and well beyond. We must have partnerships of people that have additional expertise, other areas of focus, and reduce our cost to implement those very things. Partnerships and collaborations are what founded our country. And it is today what's taking Landus to the next level. Partnerships like we have with Indigo and Truterra on the carbon side. Partnerships like AMVC, where we added a feed mill that consumes 8.5 million bushels of your corn to an asset of ours that didn't cost our farmers one dime. And the importance of that is the integrators in swine are changing. That industry has changed. And spending 20, 30, 40 million on a new feed mill as a co-op of farmers' money is yesterday's news. There is no doubt AMVC sits in a very unique position with their expertise, their ability to collaborate with us in operation of that feed mill and supplying that feed mill. And I'm excited for how many other partnerships we might find. Other partnerships are taking direct shipment programs to market, like we are doing in the grain world, by delivering grain directly through the relationships we have now out of our Guadalajara office with Leopoldo and his staff. On the agronomy side, take the links out of the chain to ensure that you have the best price, the best options, the best supply in agronomy. And you already see that relationship with IAP having an impact in our agronomy numbers. Geographical diversity. We can't go and talk downstream to folks like Freon Industries and supplying major bushels and be hostage to a situation of a drought, a derecho, any kind of weather or circumstance beyond our control. It's important that we look beyond the borders of Iowa, because we can't do the things Mark talked about to be successful going forward if we're only limited to a specific geography, because Mother Nature happens, life happens, and we have to serve in a bigger way. And we've made strong announcements as this recently with Conduit and other efforts that we'll take forward, utilizing our Growth Solution Center and other success factors to win this battle. And while I'm on geographical diversity, it ties really well to end user agreements. No longer can you just deliver your grain to the co-op, to the ethanol plant, to a milk supplier, and expect that to be enough. You've got to understand the next steps of that, where that commodity is ending, what you need to do to make sure that commodity is demanded and wanted by end consumers, by everyone in that supply chain. But more importantly, in those downstream arrangements, how do you get paid for what you've done? How do we take the Board of Trade price and add to that because of the hard work you and your families, you and your employees put into those commodities? You deserve it. That's the role of a co-op in 2022 and beyond. You should expect that. You should demand that. Although I understand not traditional. There's no doubt this is not what the co-op system was founded on many, many years ago. But the marketplace has changed. The consumer has become more important to this discussion. And your co-op has to play that bridge between you and the consumer. You and that entire supply chain, where there's food, fuel, fiber, doesn't matter. And the way we do that is through innovation, through data, through technology, allowing you to have the best tools at your fingertips to ensure the best outcome that meets the demand of that consumer that you get paid for. I'm tired of hearing these deals, seeing them in the grocery store, seeing them at the fuel pump, and not having that money, some of that money at least, coming back to our farmer owners. Landus and its talented team must change that. And you have our commitment to do just that in working downstream. Last but not least, you heard Mark talk about insights and infrastructure. Now this goes back to something in the 90s that became very well known in agriculture of speed and space. In fact, that was a big co-op mantra. If you didn't have speed or space, you were going to be absorbed. And it happened. You've seen many names change in the state of Iowa, including this cooperative, all built around how we compete for speed and space. But in 2022 and beyond, that's a table stake. Everyone's played that card. Everyone still in existence has speed and space. Now the challenge exists of how do we drive insights and infrastructure. Insights like the data, like the expertise of people, like the downstream markets, carbon markets. How do we create the insights to participate in those infrastructures that exist here today? And yes, in the infrastructure bucket is absolutely assets like Mitchellville, Early, some of those Mark mentioned, that we need to implement speed and space still. But it's all a part of a larger infrastructure driven off of insights. That's where the strategic spend of the $150 million that we announced several months ago over the next 4 years of incremental spend. So don't let anybody try to confuse you on this. There's what we plan to spend historically for the next 4 years, and then there's another $150 million over that 4 years that we will spend on insights and infrastructure. As a matter of fact, I'm here to tell you today, the number will be well north of $150 million. And when you include some of the dollars from our strategic partners like AMBC or others I've mentioned, this number will be probably closer to $500 million or greater. That's strategic spend. Using other people's expertise and resources with ours and driving an outcome that's good for our farmer owners in what you do on your farms and how we perform as a cooperative. So with those 4 areas discussed, I want to talk a little bit about the chevron, or the Landus logo and the little logo above the words Landus. The question is, what can you expect from us? And as I've got some of the letters and emails you send that aren't so kind, I get it. And I go to meetings that are a little more hostile because of changes to the future. I understand. I don't hold any remorse. Change is tough. But when I self-reflected off of a lot of those, particularly coming from our insurance and safety closures we had as of late, it really became obvious to me that we have one big glaring issue. That the name Landus, or this chevron, means something different to everyone. And that can't be that way. That's on my shoulders. I've been here now almost 3 years. It should be very clear to you and our employees what this chevron stands for. And we don't have that cleared today. As you listen to this annual meeting and other meetings you've been at, you have a pretty good idea where this is going. But what I also want to say here is this. Cooperatives were started with the phrase that we do for the farmer that they can't do for themselves. Everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, in any business class, in any successful business, trying to do everything for everyone is a recipe for failure. It's why the cooperative system has struggled at times. We at Landus are standing in front of you telling you that can't be the case. We are what we are. We fit a large percent of you all, and I've heard that very clearly from you. You want us to challenge you. You want to be here for the next generation and generations to come. You want to make more money. You want to expand your business. I get it. You should. And our job is to stand beside you and find that way. But it won't be based on the tradition. It'll be based on the future. The things Mark and I, Mary, others have talked about. So over the next 6 months in 2023 calendar year, you should expect meetings all over our geography talking about this change. Maybe not change, but this logo and what it means, so everyone understands that. And for most, I think it'll be very clear and supportive. There will be some that our change doesn't work. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. There's other businesses, people that are probably better suited based on their go-to-market strategy that are better. I don't want to lose any of you. But I also have to stand in front of you and our employee base and say, there's a balance. There's an understanding of what's possible and what's not based on our market. So please, as we go forward, allow us the opportunity to engage in these two-way dialogues. Us talking about the chevron, our business, you talking about how that fits for you. There'll be some of you, again, that this fits all of your needs. There'll be some it fits part of. There'll be some it may fit none. All are okay. It's business. And no business is built for everyone. I wish we could make my job a lot easier, make our team's job a lot easier. But it takes somebody like me having the guts to stand on stage and tell you what this really is, where it has to go for us to be successful as your cooperative, as your business. I end with this slide of not your grandparents' cooperative. By now, you probably feel that. I'm proud of my grandparents, my family that still farms, and all that goes into that tradition, and the same for all of yours. But how cooperative started and for what reason, today is different, and probably needs to be even a bigger gap of different, because the marketplace globally is moving fast. Is changing in front of our eyes. And we shouldn't fear that. This is exciting times. Although change is hard, I've said that, and I agree. We can do this together. That's the role of a co-op. Not only the table stake items, but the things that allow all of us to succeed together, starting on your farms. So let me thank you for what you've done for us. All of the highs and lows of our past and all the cooperatives that form us created these results we see today. And it's you standing beside us and giving us a chance to show you the future and move in a direction that's good for the future is why we're here. Farmer owners, thank you. And last, to our employees and their families. As I say up and down the halls of a lot of our locations, this is a family sport because rural is small at times. It's a tight-knit community. And it's not just the employees that get hit up. It's the children at school, at college. It's the spouses. It's the employees. And to all of you, thank you for the changes you've made to help Landus be here, our employees and their families. It truly means the world to me, to our board of directors, and our executive leadership team. So with the executive leadership team said, I'd like to now turn it back over to Matt Chambers to close the meeting, and then we'll open up the Q&A session. So please submit your questions if you haven't, and we'll get as many of them answered as we can. Those that we can't get to, we will address through other channels, through social media, website as needed going forward. Matt, I'll turn it back over to you.
On behalf of Nate Stewart, Chairman of the Board, and the entire Board of Directors, I want to thank you for your continued support of Landus. To the Landus employees, thank you for demonstrating the Landus way. Since there is no further official business to be brought before the membership, I would accept a motion from the floor to adjourn. I have a motion and a second to adjourn the 7th annual meeting of Landus. We will now move into our question and answer portion. I turn it back over to Matt Karstens.
Thanks, Matt. And this is the time that I enjoy the most because it really gets the questions answered that are on your mind, and we'll get to as many as we can. We got a few coming in. If we don't get all of the questions in that fills the time, I'll also pull up some of our executive leadership team and let them talk about their businesses. So the first one I want to start with that came in was this one around the Grow Solution Center. And this is a good one because this is our future. The Grow platform is what will truly differentiate us from others. So the question is, last year you introduced the Grow Solutions Center, Matt. Can you provide an update at how this is going and how does it impact the field team? So as I turn this over to Tim Unruh, who leads our Grow business today, what I'd say is that it does have an impact on our business in all positive ways. This isn't about a reduction of our field team. You have to have that person to contact, whether it's on the in-row, in one of our locations, or in between with our drivers and so on. But what it is a way for us to do two things particularly. One, when you call 515-800-GROW, you get an answer well beyond the hours of operation of a normal location. And you don't have to hang up your phone until that answer is given. And they've got all the resources at their disposal to ensure every question's answered. But the second piece it does is it helps change the future of how we go to market. You've seen our turnover at many positions, particularly in sales. I assure you, retail sales in any industry is tough. Not to mention agriculture that happens in different seasons, all day, all night, and can be long seasons like this harvest was with minimal rain. We have to find a way to better balance that workload for our employees. So I'm excited about how this is changing the scope and the amount of calls and service that we've done. So Tim, I want to turn it over to you and talk a little bit about some of the statistics and other things I may have missed in the future of what the Grow Solution Center is. Tim?
Good afternoon. Not to oversimplify the question, but I think the key contributing factor to the success of the Grow Solutions Center to this point is just the simple fact that we've provided our membership, our farmer owners, with one number to contact to get a quick, fast, easy answer to your question or ongoing support as you need it. Last year alone, the Grow Solutions Center team had over 26,000 contacts with close to 10,000 customers across all areas of our business, whether that be grain, agronomy, feed, or data. As far as the second part to the question, how this impacts our field sales team or our field teams in general, it has always been our vision that the Grow Solutions Center does not replace our field teams, but we consider ourselves an extension to the to the field teams. So it's no surprise or nothing new for all of us to realize the challenges we've had with the labor market and being able to hire the talent and all that we need to fill some of these positions. So the virtual option has been a very good option for Landus. We're going to continue to grow, no pun intended, we're going to continue to grow that team as we go forward. We're learning as we go, but so far we feel like it has been a successful addition for Landus and for you, our farmer members.
Well done, Tim, and thanks for your leadership in the Grow Group, and keep those great results coming. The next question is a two-part one that I like, and I'm going to ask John Sutterdahl, who leads our Products and Services Group. John, you all know quite a bit from his past with us, and glad he's still with us today, making big contributions across all portfolios, not just the grain business that he's known for many years. The two-part question is, what effects does the proposed ban on GMO corn have on Landus' ability to ship to Mexico? And second part of that is, what's the impact on the rail strike and transportation challenges that Landus has had? So relative to the GMO, this is a tough question for us, especially as we've opened up an office in Guadalajara, and that being a key market for us today. And we've already shipped 2 of our own unit trains. John can talk to you about dedicated unit trains that we have for our system and what that means. The second part relative to the rail strike, what I want to say is, John will give you the answer to the question, but we've been actively involved with our legislators federally and even beyond the legislators in Iowa, talking with different organizations and leaders in the administration, White House, and D.C. We've actually been quoted in many different magazines and newspapers across the country and globe, and that's what you should expect, because rail is Landus when we talk about grain, and becoming, ironically, a bigger part of our business on agronomy. So, John, I'll leave this here and let you answer these 2 questions, okay? John Sutterdahl.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. So the first question was about Mexico and non-GMO corn. So this has been out in the press for some time now. It's been floated by the Mexican government that there's going to be a ban on all non-GMO corn, or all GMO corn rather, out a year or 2 from now. We've actually been able to clarify this somewhat through Leopoldo, who's at our office in Mexico. It's not feasible for that to happen, frankly. But the target, I believe, that the Mexican government is after is for human consumption only. So I think you'll see the market probably diverge into 2 segments, human consumption and feed consumption. The grain that we're supplying down there through our rail network is for the feed industry, so I don't see it affecting us at all in the future. The next question was the rail strike, or the lack thereof. We've been to the edge of the cliff now twice. And, the rail issues, we've been fighting them all year long. As Matt said, we provided written testimony to the STB hearing earlier this spring. As far as direct costs that the Landus has incurred, there have been some. Mark, in his remarks, talked about record grain volumes, but also one of our higher expense areas was interest. So if you think about the volume of grain we're handling, in rail, when you're 1 to 2 weeks behind schedule, and that was the case during the spring. We caught up for a brief time during the summer and then retreated back to that kind of delays here through fall. So interest expense has been a pretty significant one. Other than that, there's been a people issue here too, and I really my heart goes out to our operations people. We loaded over 30,000 rail cars during the fiscal year, and a lot of those were shuttles that you load upon arrival. And when the schedules were inconsistent, didn't show up when they were supposed to, got delayed, it really caused our people to have to, in a sense, be on standby at many locations, waiting for days for a train to arrive. So there's an issue there with people that we've been dealing with as well in the country. So, thanks.
Thanks, John. Great answer. And just to give a little context, when John talks about STB, that's the Surface Transportation Board. When railroads went from basically federal or government-owned to private-owned, they created as a government STB, which is that Surface Transportation Board that provides oversights and helps. Because when you have a location like you all do on various railroads, those railroads are individual-owned, so there's not cross-competition there. So that group adds a lot of muscle to what John's talking about. It's been a very nice help to the industry and us as well. The next question is going to go to Kathleen Lyons, the new CFO, as we move forward. And the question was, on your long-term debt, how much is fixed rate versus variable rate? So very good question in these trying times. That's a big topic. We also could even talk, Kathleen, about some of the leases that we're doing to help drive that down. So with no further ado, our brand new CFO, Kathleen Lyons.
Thank you, Matt. Interest rates, that's been quite a hot topic over the last few months. It's in the news. We're watching what the feds are doing on a quarterly basis. Hasn't really been a lot of fun, quite honestly, over the last year or so. But as far as what Landus is doing, we're trying to do a variety of things to mitigate our interest rate risk. We do some interest rate cap locks, which helps us mitigate that risk. And we also leave some of that interest as a variable rate. As Matt alluded to, we do take the opportunity to take on some leases, which allows us to lock in very favorable rates to the term debt rates. The one thing that we have had happen over the last few months is we went through a bank syndication, which is we got a new bank syndication with CoBank, and that's a 3-year agreement, which is nice to have behind us. We have full support of CoBank in helping us watch those interest rates and looking for any sort of opportunities to mitigate that risk as CoBank and as we evaluate what are our needs going to be for the future. As Mark alluded to, we're going to be having additional capital spent, and so how do we anticipate the capital needs for our cooperative and make sure that we're protecting ourselves where we can when it comes to the interest rate. Thanks.
Thanks, Kathleen, and thank you for the questions. Next on the questions is, with your announcement of $150 million investment and more now, where and how can we expect to see these improvements in timeline? There's a lot going on in this space, and it's rapidly changing. In fact, we have some letters coming out to a lot of you on some locations we talked about historically that will be, in some cases, some good news. So Don King leads our field organization and is a big part of those decisions that we go through. So Don, I'm going to turn it over to you and make some comments around that timeline and those improvements.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Matt. So, by spending that much money in today's capital chain, and we look at the disruption of getting all our legs, our dryers, our agronomy things, that's probably going to take over the next 2 to 3 years to get everything done. And the question was asked, what deserves to get the infrastructure put in place? Well, most of it's going to be spent on our main hubs that we have. A hub would be either a big agronomy site or it would be a site that has rail that we're bringing a lot of grain into and shipping across the U.S. With that, we have to look at safety needs, we look at our go-to market strategy, and we look at what we need to do and what we need to be the supplier of the farmer of the future. And when we make these decisions, they're not based on 2022. We're looking at what the market and what the farmer looks like 2030, 2040, and beyond. And if you look back at some of our great hubs that we have today, there's people that made up Landus today 20, 30, 40 years ago that actually put in some really good infrastructure. So any questions on those things, don't be afraid to reach out to us. But we're going to put a lot of capital in play and try to look at what the future of agriculture looks 20 years down the road. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Kind of tied to that as a follow-up question, do you expect more closures of locations in the upcoming year? And I'll give a high level of that before turning it back over to Mark, who now in his new role really leads these discussions. There's factors here of safety. There's factors here of insurance. There's factors here of just the overall dynamics of the performance of those locations and where we're going in the future. So I want Mark to talk a little bit about how he sees it, because it's an ever-changing journey that we're on. And as he starts his new role, I think there's a lot of good insights that he'll bring to his years of experience running the financials to kind of balance that in his history and owning with his family business their own retail back in Perry years ago. So Mark, turn the floor back to you.
Thank you, Matt. So the question is, do we expect more closures coming in the future? The short answer is probably yes. A cooperative is a bunch of farmers trying to do it better together than separately. And the cooperative system not only should emulate the farmers, but it needs to get ahead of it. Nowhere do we hear anybody saying fewer, bigger, faster isn't the trend in the future. So like you, the farmer, we will close some smaller locations. We don't know where, and I'm talking out 5 to 10 years. We'll retrofit and build up some bigger locations, and you'll see some greenfield sites coming to replace the assets so that we remove. So nobody will be left hanging, but we do need to equip the cooperative infrastructure to get ahead of you, the farmer, who continues to get fewer, bigger, faster. Nobody has said anything that'll change. So you'll see the landscape all across the Midwest change in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thanks, Mark. Next question. Can you talk about the future of the Innovation Connector and maybe just a little more insights into what we do in the Innovation Connector? I'm really excited about what this connector has meant to our business and where we're going with that to help in that two-way dialogue and help all of us, Landus and you as farmer owners, push forward in a way that's good for agriculture. So I want Molly Toot, who leads our administration, to really look at what's going on and where we're going, and she does a lot and has historically done a lot of work in this area. No better person to talk about the Innovation Connector than Molly. Molly?
Thank you, Matt. And I'm glad to answer this question. I'm really excited to be a part of this. So as many of you may know, we kicked off the Innovation Center in the summer of 2021 in Ralston. And this past year, summer of 2022, we opened up the Innovation Connector, where we brought over 300 farmers through and had 12 or 14 companies in that are really representing the future of agriculture. This is important for Landus, as we want to take place and we want to be a part of what farmers need for the future. This is what we're really doing is around innovation. It may be different products, technologies, different practices, but things that are going to help the farmer move into the future. So we have an opportunity at the Connector to bring together different companies, whether they're startups, whether they're existing with new businesses or new products, to showcase those products and those technologies to our farmers and have you all look at them and see how they will help you on the farm and create different business opportunities and hopefully revenue streams, not only for Landus, but also for our farmers. So we'll continue to do that. We'll expand this year as we get into 2023. We'll offer some spring programming, and then we'll go into a bigger summer again, where we hope to fill even more companies in there. We have a couple of folks on our team, Sue Tronchetti, Brian Crow, and some others that are working on companies out in San Francisco, out in the Silicon Valley, going to some ag technology conferences to really find those outlying companies that are bringing new things that we haven't seen before to you, the farmer, so that you can review those. We're looking at some partnerships where we're actually going to expand our space and have some opportunities to have companies office here so that they can have a chance to visit with our farmers and see what works for you, what do you need. So it's an exciting time to be a part of Landus, and an exciting time to be a part of innovation, and we hope to see you all as we get into the spring and summer of this next year. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks for the question. And Molly, I echo your comments. We look forward to seeing all of you in the Innovation Connector as we go forward. Next question is, what is happening to locations that you had to close, all or part of? It's a good question. We get it quite a bit. There's a process that's been laid out for that we definitely want our farmers engaging in and taking us through. Our General Counsel, Steve Nielsen, leads that effort for us. So, Steve, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to talk about that process and anything else you want to add to the journey of that great assignment that you have.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for having the courage to ask the question. So, the only way that we know how to do this that's fair to everybody is we do sealed bids. So if you follow our website at the bottom right now there aren't any there, but on the Landus website at the bottom right, there's properties for sale, and you click on that. Any properties that we have that are up for sale will be posted there. If you get a hold of us, I've got a spreadsheet going for all those who are interested, and so we will definitely let you know if a location that you're interested in is coming online to be sold. So the short answer is follow our website, and we'll do our best to reach out to all of you that have an interest in any sites that we're going to sell. And our preference, obviously, is to sell to one of you. We will not sell to a competitor. That's forbidden. Won't allow that. But we would love to sell to you for your use. Okay?
And to our audience, we're sorry, Steve, you're just a little taller than I am, so we had to adjust the camera a little bit there. The next two that I want to have speak, as we ran through the questions you've submitted, are the last two on the executive leadership team. The first one I want to introduce you to is Ann Appleseth. Ann joined us a few months ago to really work on both communications and marketing. As we continue to grow, as we continue to have these two-way dialogues, our communication to you must be crisp. And our board has been very clear about this direction. And I couldn't think of a better person to lead our journey with her past experiences and her rural heritage across our geography, from growing up in Early to now living in Guthrie County, to lead this initiative for us. So, Ann, I'd like you to join us on stage and talk a little bit about marketing and the journey you and your team are going on for the benefit of our farmer owners.
Thanks so much, Matt, and it is a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this phenomenal team. We really have two core missions when it comes to marketing and communications. One is to define that chevron, and Matt referenced that a little bit. We really need to better understand top to bottom, employees, farmer owners, all of our partners, and our communities, what that chevron means and what Landus brings to all of those audiences. And in parallel with that, as we're developing that fully integrated plan, we're also going to be communicating on an ongoing basis with our farmer owners about the products and the services and the programs that we offer. We have lots of different ways that we're communicating with you, certainly our website, our social media channels, our Girl on the Go newsletter, our podcast. There's lots of different ways that we can connect with you. But we want to do that in a way that is meaningful and intentional, as well as in the mediums that you find most efficient and effective for your operations. So we're all about trying to bring added value and telling you how we're doing that. So we look forward to working with our farmer owners directly, whether that's in an event, through our social media channels, face-to-face. We want to hear from you. So I'm happy to be here and couldn't be more thankful to be a part of this team.
Thanks, Ann, and we look forward to the journey going forward in communications and marketing, a critical step of this implementation for 2023 and beyond. Last but not least is the newest addition to our team, Bruce Vernon, who joined us just less than a month ago to really lead our new initiative, Landus Conduit, which is about our geographical expansion, giving other farmers in a bigger geography to help serve not only the initiative that you all have created, but the downstream engagements, other partners, other businesses. Nobody can do this like Bruce can, and we're excited to have him join the team and really take Landus Conduit to the next level. So, Bruce, you're on the shot clock for just a few seconds here, but talk a little bit about Landus Conduit.
Quick. And I really appreciate the opportunity, Matt, to join your team. It's been an exciting month to be here, and seeing the energy has just been incredible. Landus Conduit is exactly what the name implies. It's working both upstream and downstream. Upstream with the farmers and producers to get the right crops that John needs to deliver to different markets, and also working with processors to take those things, working with the data that Molly talked about, talking with the grow team from Tim, linking all the capabilities and capacities that Landus has today and extending them beyond the state of Iowa. We've got them in place, we've got them structured. We've got demands outside, be it other processors, grain originators, or ag retailers that want our capacities to serve. So with that, we're really excited about getting going.
Thanks, Bruce, and we're excited as well. And thanks for you and all your team now that you managed joining our team. So this concludes the 7th annual Landus meeting. We're excited for the future, but we're most appreciative in the celebration of the great 2022 fiscal year we had because of you, our farmer owners, and our employees and their families. Thank you so much. We look forward to continuing to earn and serve your business going forward in 2023 and for many years to come. Thank you so much, and have a great holiday season.